My next guest on Brian's World, he really don't need no introduction. A man for the town, from the town, and from Next Page KC, Mr. Eric Wesson. Man, appreciate you taking time to join me on Brian's World. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be with thee, Brian B. Shynin.
Ah, man, stop it. Don't do that. Look, all right, let's get into it. I,
Okay.
you know, 35th and Prospect. So, in case you don't know, you was under a rock. Prosecutor, Jackson County Prosecutor Melissa Johnson, Mayor Lucas, and several community leaders. I know Mr. Pat Clark was out there.
Mhm.
Basically held uh, a press conference per se, to spread awareness about what's going on and what needs to happen and pleading for the community's help.
Mhm.
And I watched your segment on PBS Kansas City's This Week in Kansas City, and the discussion was I feel like I was unfulfilled with the discussion. So that's why I wanted to talk to you this week on Brian's World, so specifically about this 35th and Prospect situation. Of course, the stadium's a little later on or whatever. Well, that's secondary to this. So if you live in Kansas City, you know that area has been like that forever. Like ever since I known what Prospect is, probably from because my grandmother, lived off of Prospect, so I was frequent, and I grew up in Village Green, so I'm frequent in that area right there,
Mhm.
and I know probably from hell up and down Prospect from the 50s down north to the Dime Block, down to
Right.
St. John. Prospect has always been an issue, a crime, at least since I've been born in the 80s or whatever. Um, why hasn't there? I don't never see police over there, Mr. Wesson. I
Mhm.
never see police over there. Do you?
No.
And
No.
you know what I do see? I see what Melissa Johnson described as being Club 35th and Prospect. They be outside doing whatever. Sometimes it look like a thriller video because I'm like, late at night I gotta travel through the city
Right.
to gig, to DJ, to do whatever. And it looked like a thriller video sometimes. So it's like y'all know where the trouble spots are in this city. Why do you think nothing has been done about specifically that area, 35th and Prospect?
So probably when you were born and growing up, they called it suspect because everybody that was black driving up and down the street was pulled over by police and deemed as being suspect of committing a crime. uh, the disinvestment in that area has been unbelievable. I wrote in a paper and did some stuff. I don't know whether they edited out and we can review or not. But from 35th and Prospect going south to 37th and Prospect, to me, is one of the most economically depressing areas around. They got vacant buildings, they got vacant houses, weeds are waist high, maybe even higher than that. And it's on a main thoroughfare. It's I can understand it, Brian, if it was back on some side street somewhere out in no man's land. But it's a main thoroughfare. And why elected officials allow it to be like that is beyond me. Uh, I would be embarrassed or ashamed to say I was an elected official in that area. But it's
Mm.
the disinvestment, and people have said, well, you know what, it's not going to get any better. Let's go ahead and go someplace else, and they give up on it. There's a thing that they do in crime that's called broken window theory. And they say in areas where you have broken windows and disinvestment, there's a lot of crime. 35th and Prospect is textbook to what that means. And, Palestine, they have development there with the Senior Citizen Center, Activity Center, but for some reason, the police will not engage in that area. And I was talking to the gas station owner, and he said the police came by and told him, hey, put up some no trespassing signs up in that area, no loitering. And when we drive by, we see him there, we can arrest him. He told me that he ain't seen the police since they told him to put that sign up, and that was 3 months ago.
Mr. Wesson, the police station, the brand new police
It's right
station is
around the
right down the
corner.
street.
Exactly. And you look at 27th and Prospect. You remember a couple of months ago, they stole the Leon Jordan lettering off the sign outside the police station. They took the lettering because it's aluminum. They stole the letters off of it, took it to the metal place, and uh, did whatever they did with it. And that's right outside the police station. If you look on 27th and Prospect, 26th and Prospect, the police station is right there. Why they don't do anything about it? I know why. Because number one, we can't hold them accountable because we don't appoint anybody to that position.
Because Missouri
And
controls, the state of Missouri
the state
controls
of,
what the police do.
yep, yep. And we just give them money. We don't give them no pushback. We don't hold them accountable for anything. You know, Stacy's a nice person, but I think, and I've said this before on every avenue that I have, she's in over her head. They need somebody that's not from here to come in and clean that police department up. It's a good old boy network. You know, when you look at all the things that go on there, nothing has changed. They don't have no policy. They don't have, they say, oh, yeah, we got this policy. We got this policy, but they never implement any of it.
Policy in terms of what?
Policy in terms of what they're going to do about violent crime. They got the Save KC people, which is the same as Nova. They just arrested 3 people that was in the program for murder. They left the meeting, allegedly, they left the meeting and went and committed a crime. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have in Kansas City is we keep paying the same people to do the same thing and expect different results. If you look at it, we got Ad Hoc, we got Reach, we got who is that? Aim for Peace. We got all these organizations in the area of 35th and 31st and
Yeah.
Prospect.
Yeah, ad hoc
We
is
got
right there.
Ad Hoc is right there, been there for what, several decades,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing has changed. And they still keep giving them money. I believe that what needs to is a hard reset and start getting people that are familiar with crime in those areas to help solve the problem, because we got mental health issues, we got drug issues, we got housing issues, but some of those things are solvable. We can do something about some of those things.
So, and this doesn't stop at 35th and Prospect. You can
Nope.
go all the way. You can go to, like I said, the 50s, but we'll specifically just say the entire 30s because it stretches to Linwood with
Yep.
that Sunfresh right there.
Yep.
And I hear horror stories about what be going on over there, prostitution, drug dealing, what have you, man. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it seems like some people just ain't got no hope. They live that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like if you treat people that way, if you surround them that way, they're not going to do nothing but follow that way, follow that path.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that cry for help that Melissa, that she expressed, I felt that because it seems like they're helpless and nothing is going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend, she was from Oklahoma City, but her grandfather was from here. Lived on 35th and whatever the street next to Prospect is, Agnes or something, I don't know what it is. He got shot over there at his house, in his own house, in that neighborhood. So it's like if I'm old, if I'm an elder, and we know it's a lot of elderly people over in 64130 in that
Right.
area. Like
Right.
what do I do? And I feel helpless because there's no help for me either, and I'm trying to do the right thing. So it's like I feel like the resources have like you said have not been allocated towards that specific area at all whatsoever
Hmm.
in
And
terms of crime prevention.
and everyday life resources. If you look at it, okay, first of all, the police, and I'll give you a perfect example. Last August, we went through there with a press conference that the mayor had. So one of the things that we pointed out to him was the fence was torn down around the Linwood Shopping Center, and it makes it look blighted, and it makes it look like nobody cares. Because you bring up a great point of the feeling of hopelessness that people have around that area. So we showed the mayor the fence and said all the problems that they had with it, and people were going in the grocery store stealing stuff, running, getting on the free bus, ride off. You know, if the police called them or stopped them, they couldn't put them in jail because there was no jail. They would give them a ticket. They take the meat from them, take it back in the store. People go back in there and steal some more. But today, this is July the 1st, that fence is still broke. Do you think for 1 second there would be a fence broken like that fence is broken in Brookside, in Westport, out on Ward Parkway? And a lot of it has to do with political will. And when you look up in the Northland, you look out in South Kansas City, and I'm not knocking our elected officials, but I'm just saying they need help. But they need help, and they need to be able to relay a message to people to help get things done. And I guess people aren't hearing that message or don't care, but it's really disturbing. And that sense of hopelessness that you're talking about is what people feel. We got the Senior Citizen Activity Center there and the Senior Citizen Housing on Prospect that belongs to Palestine. Well, it's part of Palestine. Those people are afraid to come out of their homes. Those are seniors. They're afraid to come out because of the shooting, the drugs, and just the hanging out and the entire mentality over there. So, what do we do as a community? We got to get elected officials on board. We don't have 6 Kansas Cities. We got one Kansas City. And we have to start making elected officials realize that. They're not just the third district, the fifth district, the first district, or second district. They are Kansas City. And they have to be able to put as much focus in the entire city as they do their districts. That's just me.
I understand you said and you gave some great solutions, but if you let's say you're an elected official, like if that's your district,
Mhm.
what is the first thing that you're doing?
The first thing I do is I look at what resources are going in that district and evaluate how effective those resources are. If Aim for Peace ain't cutting the mustard, hey, thanks for the memories. Give them a gold watch, take that funding, and try something else with it. One thing about Kansas City is they emulate programs that work in other cities. We got, what is that, KC 360. We have all of these programs. Omaha 360 is the model of that. We got Aim for Peace, which is a model of Kansas City. Kansas City is a unique city. We got a whole different set of mentality here. So you can't take a program that might be effective there and make it work here because the cities are different. Omaha to me is they don't even have a real soul food restaurant in Omaha. So how do you compare it with Kansas City? The mentality is different. So what I would do, evaluate all of these programs that we have, look at how much money we're giving them, and try something different. What could go wrong? Because it can't really get any worse.
I want to say when we talk about resources, and I want to talk about investment with resources, you
Absolutely.
and you got to invest in the people.
Absolutely.
One of the points that you brought up was, and when I say invest in the people, I'm talking about jobs. I'm talking about somewhere where people could go, maybe for food, for pantries, something to give back to the community, to
Hmm.
where they don't have to go out and rely on crime. Because with a sense of hopelessness, it's like I don't give a damn about nothing. I have no rules, so I need to get what I need to get to feed me and my family.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's so many people in that scenario in this zip code that we talk about. But investing in people, you mentioned the construction job training uh, in that PBS piece this week in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And you said and I agree with you because when I'm seeing the construction sites when I'm driving around,
Uh-huh.
it only be a few of us there. Was it I think you briefly talked about it. Was it a specific program within construction that was supposed to be for black people that didn't happen or what?
We were supposed to have job training, skill training, and not just be laborers. It should have been carpentry. It should have been pipe fitting. It should have been things that help framing because all houses and all of these things that are being built have to be framed. So it was supposed to be a training program for that. It was supposed to be at the Votech Center. People drug their feet. The next thing I know, they building a $20 million training facility up north. And when you get back to the hopelessness piece, so how do I, as a young black man or a middle-aged black man or a black man, period, or a black woman or young black woman, how do I feel like there's some hope when there's construction projects right down the street from me, 15, 20, $30 million that I can't go work at? And those are jobs that pay from 42 to $62 an hour. Those are prevailing wage jobs. So now why can't I get in a training program so I can get trained to be able to work those jobs? Listen, man, the dude that stands out there, or the woman that stands out there with the sign that says stop and go and spins it around when the traffic clears up, they make $25 to $30 an hour. So here's my choice. Hang out here on the corner or go make $30 an hour. Which one you think I'm going to do? Go
Right.
get the $30 an hour while I can. So there were training programs that we should have had at Votech. And who is that? Blue Valley School District over there. They teach those kids, or Olathe School District, they teach their young kids in high school how to build houses. We went through a period of time here where our kids were learning how to build birdhouses.
Hmm.
Let that sink in for a second. How many jobs you think you can get building a birdhouse? Versus, even if you don't get into building a house, there's home repair, there's building decks, there's building, fixing up homes, putting gutters around houses. Those kind
Hmm.
of things, if we had the skill to do, we could do. But we're not getting the opportunity to get trained to do that. And
Hmm.
that's a problem.
Hmm.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
And none of your elected officials are really talking about it. They give lip service to it, but what are they actually doing to move the needle?
Mhm. Man, we can go on and on and on about 35th
Well, you right
Prospect and
up
so
my
forth.
alley. We can talk
Yeah,
about this till
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. I got about 10 more minutes with you, Mr.
Okay,
West, and I'm
okay.
great. I'm gracious for your time, and I appreciate you so much for your knowledge. But we got to move to the stadium subject real quick. Um, you mentioned that and I didn't even know this. This is how much this was hidden a little bit. But the old, I guess it's the old KC ATA complex. Like
Uh-huh.
the Royals was thinking about moving there.
Uh-huh.
Seriously? That
Yeah.
right by 18th and Vine.
Right there by, well, they want to call it the Jazz District,
Okay.
because after the article, did a front page
Oh, they
story
don't want to
about it.
call it
I'll
18th
send
and
you the
Vine.
link to it so you can read what Mr. Gates said, what John Sherman said. So there's a stigma attached to 18th and Vine, especially now the murders have taken place there and all the foolishness. But they want to change it to the Jazz District. And one of the things that they want to be able to do is take the KCATA complex, go all the way over to Truce, go all the way down to Truman Road and turn that into the ballpark. They connected to the Negro Leagues Museum. They connected to the Negro Leagues new hotel that's going to be there on that corner. And they connected to Crossroads. So you have an ongoing entertainment district
Ah,
on there and do it. And one of the interesting things is the Needle. They call it the Royal Tower in that particular article that I was given that I wrote about. And at the top of it, it'll have a revolving room, and they'll have different barbecue restaurants that come in there and set up barbecue maybe once a month or twice a month or 1 week a month. And then it just rotates the barbecue that people are used to when they think of Kansas City. Then you got the jazz on the left and you got the other stuff on the right. It's a great concept.
it is.
It really is, because we have to all stop and think. Baseball, Negro Leagues baseball started right in that same location. Down the street several blocks, the A's started, the Chiefs started. So it has a history of being involved in sports. We just have to make people remember that and bring it back. So I think it's a great
Wow.
idea, but I'll send you a link to the article and
Yeah.
you can read the whole thing, because Mr. Gates made some really interesting comments in explaining why that's where we need to put that park.
Mr. Gates said all that. That was all from him.
That was from him. That was from
Wow.
him.
You know what? That the way that he connected all of that, that's crazy. That
Uh-huh.
is that's crazy. Because
And
yeah, the municipal was right there
right,
by Lincoln Prep.
right.
And and he even paying tribute to Arthur Bryant. Arthur Bryant is right there.
Yeah.
You still get your crossroads, situation a little bit. You got the highway is right there though. That
That's
would be my only concern, because 71 is right there.
You got
Um,
71 there, you got 70 and 435. So people coming from Johnson County, they can connect to all of those freeways right there.
yeah.
They building a new parking garage and they got spot for a parking lot to be built there.
So this
Eventually,
ain't is this dead in the water? This is just something that like I mean I know Mr. Gates made those comments last week, but is this like this is a pipe dream?
I can actually say there is conversations and meetings going on with it. I can say that there are meetings with the Gates and individuals and people are talking about it. So it does have Mr. Sherman's ear, because at first, that was one of the first locations that they talked about when Adam Sachs was on the team looking at locations. And it was East Village, then it changed over to Crossroads, which got it killed because now you had pushback and opposition. Now they're over at Washington Park. And I think that's a terrible location for a baseball.
Why? I like that location. I was going
Too
that was going to be
small.
my next question. Why do you don't like that one?
Too small. They went from 12 acres to 8 acres to 4 acres. It's too small.
It would be a tight squeeze. It would not. It would. But
It
man,
would
look,
be a
I'm
tight
just
squeeze.
I'm
And
just
you
I'm just a
can't,
big picture thinker, and I'm thinking like you right next to Crown Center. Crown Center is a beautiful place. Like Christmas time at Crown Center, like Crown Center is beautiful. And I'm just thinking they gonna crown it up, baby. Like let's royal it out, baby. Crowns everywhere, baby. Crown Center, the West End, Hallmark. My grandma worked for Hallmark for 35 years. God bless her soul. So just the crown and the royal, and it just you got Union Station right there. That's just how I see it. I see big things, like I got vision, Mr. Wesson. You know what I'm saying? But to your point though, it would be a tight squeeze.
it would be a tight squeeze. And you know what Mr. Gates said? You can't smell no barbecue over there.
He ain't lying.
You can't smell no. And if you
He
can't,
ain't
have,
lying.
have you ever talked to him about barbecue and baseball in Kansas City?
I wore one of my Negro Leagues hats, the
Mhm.
old school. I think it was a 42 Monarchs, the classic one with the stripes,
Uh-huh.
the white,
Uh-huh.
the Jackie Robinson one. I think Jackie
Okay.
Robinson wore, and I
Okay.
wore it at Gates when the radio station I-103 we was giving away 1,000, like $5,000 or something to a listener at Gates on Paseo. He was there. And it wasn't a long conversation, but he told me he gonna give me the hat that Buck O'Neil gave to him. I'm still waiting on that hat, Mr. Gates. It was just last year, so I'm gonna give him a little time, But I can just imagine. Mr. Gates is what, 80 plus years old?
92.
See, 92. See, he grew up with the Negro Leagues. The
Yes.
Negro Leagues ain't nothing but almost 10 years older than him.
Yes. Yes.
I can
But
just imagine.
when teams came here and the A's played on 22nd Street, the smoke from the barbecue would go over, and the announcers
Really?
in the baseball games, the announcers, the TV announcers, smelled the smoke and the barbecue. And Gates and Arthur Bryant used to take barbecue up to the announcers, and that is what put barbecue on the map for Kansas City. Those sports announcers would announce, man, this is like the best barbecue ever. And the smoke and the smell, he said they used to kind of try to make sure it fanned down here to get close to them. That's how people know barbecue in Kansas City.
I am blown away. I did not see this conversation going this way, but here we are. Mr.
Yeah,
Wesley, you got it. Look, I only
yeah.
got a few more minutes left with you, but look, you
Okay.
done do you will with Kansas City or barbecue. You always got my attention, but that is so fascinating to
It
me.
is.
That
It is.
that that that
It is.
that's crazy.
It is. It's
That-
a great story. Kansas City has a lot of history. We got the first Negro Leagues baseball started here. We got Carter Broadcasting here. We got that other newspaper I used to work at here. It has a lot of history. It has a lot of
it's
history.
Lucille Buford's day.
Yes, yes, yes. We have
God
all
bless
that
her.
here. So it's great to be here. It's just I wish they could do something with the crime though. I really do.
Yeah, that's always our Achilles heel, man.
Yeah.
It's it seemed like it got better for a second, but it's always a persistent problem since I've been alive in
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, and the change has to be with the people. We got to focus on the people, not big business, not money. It has to be with the people. So
All those
until
shiny things. Those shiny things. You got to invest in people, and
yeah,
especially investing in young people.
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And Mr. Eric Wesson, thank you so much for your knowledge and time.
And thanks for having me. We
This ain't
got to
gonna be the
do this
last time.
again.
Yeah. Whenever something crack up, man, you got to be a correspondent on Brian's World,
Absolutely.
and of course I'll return the favor for you on next page, KC, man.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wesson, have a good one. Be a blessing. Appreciate you, man.
All right, you too. Be careful.
Yes, sir. Whew, that is the pod this week, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure you hit the comments and leave a review. Subscribe again at B Shynin on the YouTube. And shout out to my family again at Foolish Club Media. Make sure you subscribe, like, love, share, and everything on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Well, as we head towards training camp, I'll be back with another episode in a couple weeks as we start to heat up as we headed to St. Joe. Make sure y'all be safe for the 4th of July, man. Don't Jason Pierre Paul yourself. All right. Be safe, be cool, and most of all, be a blessing. Chiefs Kingdom in Kansas City. Mount up!
Shut up.